Hi there guys, welcome back to another C# tutorial. In the previous tutorials we talked about the C# as a language, and what we learned didn't qualify us to build effective applications. Okay, today we are gonna start learning one of the available frameworks for building an application. So basically, when you select or you want to create a new project, you will get this window, and this window has a number of options: Windows Forms application, ASP.NET application, WPF application, Council application, and so on. And we used to select Council application. So what does that mean? Using Council application means you are writing a program that is gonna run inside the terminal. That's it. Okay. However, there are other libraries that allows you to build Windows application. So if you use this one, you will be able to build Windows application using the same language, using C#. If you select this one, you will be able to build web application using C# as well. If you choose this one, you will be able to build Windows application based on a different framework called WPF, okay, using C# also. Here you are building components using C#. Okay, here you are building DLLs using C#, and so on. Okay, so the point I'm trying to tell you, here is that you have the language, and now you should choose a framework in order to build for your target. Okay, so if you want to ship desktop applications, you will use the Windows Forms application. If you want to ship web application, you will choose ASP.NET web application, and so on. Okay, so the framework we are gonna learn is Windows Forms application. Okay, so I'm gonna start with Windows Forms application. So I'm gonna choose this one. I will leave the name as it is and hit OK. And I'm gonna close this one. Yeah, there we go. So we have this one. As you can see here, as soon as you select Windows Forms application, you will get this form. This is very similar to Windows Form application using VB. Okay, it is almost identical. Okay, so what do you see here? You see the name of your application, you see a properties page, you see references. Basically, references represent the DLLs and libraries that your program is going to use. Okay, and then you will see the file. There's form1.cs.c# and the program.cs. Okay, sorry about that. So let us have a look here. What can we do? So when you see this one, you see this bracket and you see the word design. It means you are in the designer. You can specify how the application or the window looks like visually. Okay, and you can see there are these handles that you can use to change the size of the window. Okay, you just hit run and you see the window right away, and it is working perfectly fine, no problem there. Okay, so this is one of the things. What also do you see on the right side? In some cases it is reversed, but anyway, you see the properties window. Okay, and the properties window uh, gives you a set of values or properties that are used to control the objects here that you are seeing at design time. Okay, so let us have a look here. So what do we have? Well, there is, for example, the font, the icon. I don't want to change that. Let me see if there's background color. There we go. There's back color, and this one has a number of values. I'm gonna select blue. Okay, as you can see, it is blue now. If I want to change this one, I could select, for example, black, and it is black, and so on. I can choose whatever I want, no problem. Okay, so yeah, so you can change any property. We will talk about that later on, but for now I just want you to know what does the properties Windows do. Okay, now by the way, if you, well, depending on the status of the properties window, you can see when you select one of the properties, it shows you a description of that property, as you can see down here. If I select this one, topmost, the text, maybe I'm gonna change this to main form and hit enter, and you can see here now this one changed to main form. So I hope this is very clear. When you select a new Windows Forms application, you will see the designer. Okay, you will see your main form, and you use the properties window to change things about this form. Okay, also you can see the text, the toolbox here. From the toolbox, you can use a number of components like, for example, buttons. You can put checkboxes, you can put labels, and so on. And by selecting or clicking one of these controls, the properties window will reflect the properties for that selected control. Okay, so I can change the text property for this button into, let's see, hello, enter. You can see now this one changed to hello. Okay, and we will cover all this later on, but again, I'm just explaining the main things here. Some of these things will be repeated again and again. Okay, so now we have an idea of what we are seeing right now, which is form1.cs, which is the designer. The question might be, oh, okay, where is the code that I'll be using to control the window? Well, you can, for example, double click this one, and you would get into this window. Now, this file, it's also form1.cs. Now, if you look at this one, what do you see? There is public. Okay, we have seen that before. And there's partial. We'll get into that in a minute. And there is a class. So this is a class. What is it called? It is called form1. Okay, it is the same name as this file. As you can see, it can be different, but basically it is the same name, and represent your form. And if you remember the previous set of tutorials about inheritance, this form one gets all its behavior and methods and properties from a basic class called form. This is what it means. Okay, there's a method here, and this method doesn't return anything, but it is called public. It is public, and it is called form1, the same name as the class. So this is a constructor, and you are just calling a method called initialize component. Okay, and yeah, you have a private method that returns nothing. It is called form_load. And it receives two parameters. One is the sender and one is the event. Okay, so all in all, this file means that your form1 is inherited from the form class, and the form class is part of the framework that Microsoft built for you in order to help you and other programmers build applications. So what you are doing here, you are taking their class, you are adding some features into it in order to build the application quickly. This is what is happening, and this is why you are you are using inheritance and object-oriented language. Okay, this is one of the reasons. Okay, drink some coffee. So now continuing with the files that we see in the Solution Explorer here. Maybe I should show you something else. Wait a second. If I open the plus sign next to the form one, I see there is a form1.designer.c#. Now this is kind of might seem confusing, but let me double click this one. Okay, so this one is having some code. Check, have a look here. There is partial class also form1. Now what does this mean? Do you have two definitions of the same class here and here? Now this is the thing in .NET and C# and Visual Basic. There is something called partial class. What that means that the code of a class can be split into two different files. Okay, so this class is being splitted. Some of the code is being written here, and the rest of the code is being written here. Okay, now why do you have this one right here? Well, this code is auto-generated by Visual Studio. Visual Studio will generate this code. It is gonna handle everything in it. Okay, you don't have to change anything. Okay, now when does Visual Studio change things here? Well, have a look here. You see there's a button, checkbox 1, label 1. So these are the controls we put on the form. Let me go to here, and I am going to add, let me say, another button, add a third button, right? And now I'm going back to the designer, and if I go down here, what do you see? You see button 2 and you see button 3. So what is happening is that the designer is building the code that later on will be translated into the control that you see on the screen. Okay, but it is too fast that you don't realize this. Okay, so this is what's happening. And if I go here into the designer, let's select this one, and I'm gonna change the name of this from button 1 btn and hit enter. Okay, and let me go to the designer file, click here, check this out. You can see now this one is now what? It is btn. So when we change properties in the properties window, what is happening is that Visual Studio is taking the new values and building some code, okay, or updating the code, and that code will affect the whole shape of the window. Okay, now let us try to understand what is happening here. So what's happening? The first thing, if we, as we said before, the form1 is being inherited from the class form. So this is where we said that it is being inherited from class form. Okay, so it takes all the properties and stuff like that. Okay, so now what also do we have? We have this private variable. It is of type system component model, blah blah blah. Okay, so you can see there are a number of dots here, right? So there's system.componentModel.iContainer. So here this form of writing is being used to indicate like accessing a library. So if you go to a library, it's kind of big. You will have to go into a section. From a section, you will go to a shelf in order to reach the book. So it's something like that. It's not exactly the same, but it is something like that. So the library is being grouped into a number of of parts. Some parts are, for example, component model, which is used for graphical user interface, let's say, and or components. Some part is used for I/O, some part is used for other stuff. So this is why you'll see these a lot, okay, and it will make sense over time. Now you have a variable called components here, and its value is equal to null. Okay, so it is being initialized to null. Okay, which means there is no object in there. And if you look here, what do you see? You see this comment required designer variable. So this one's telling you, the developer, if you open this file, you should not modify this variable or change it, because the designer is gonna search for this variable and use it. Okay, what do you see here? You see protected. You remember protected, it's being treated like private, but when you inherit from a class, you will still be able to see the variable, or in this case the method. Override, it means forget the previous method that has the same name and signature and use this new one. Okay, so we are gonna get rid of the method called dispose, and there is a parameter here. This has to do with memory management and stuff like that, and we might cover this later on, but for now you don't have to worry. Okay, and there is some code here I'm going to show you in a second, but let us go here. You see there is a private member. Okay, it is a button here. It's called button 1, and there is a checkbox. The object is called checkbox 1, and there is a label. The label is called label 1, and there is another button which is called btn, and there's another button which is called button 3. Okay, another things here, if you open this one, okay, what do we see here? By the way I open this, basically this part is being surrounded with the hash region, hash and region, and basically you can group the code and hide it or show it using the Visual Studio Editor. That's all. This is the point of it. Okay, now this is the initialize component. Where is it? This is the initialize component method that your form is calling. So it is calling this one. This is initialize component. So what is happening here? The button is being created, the checkbox is being created, the label is being created, and so on. And then the designer puts some comments and continue. So what does the designer do? Well, it is filling or changing the properties of this button. Okay, so we have the button with the value hello. I'm gonna change this into no, 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 and I will go to the designer. You can see here now it changed to no, 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 right? I will go to the properties window here. I'm going to say n, okay, and enter. If I go to the form 1 designer, what do you see? You see the n. Okay, so again, same thing, same idea, right? So this is how it is following this object. It's calling the this keyword. This means the form, and button 1 means the object that is called button 1 in the form, and the location is a property for that button. Okay, and same for the name, and same for the size. Okay, and so on. Let's continue. Same idea with checkbox 1, same idea with label 1 and button, etc, etc. Okay, so if you think about it, you don't need to change anything in this file at all. Okay, when you want to change things, you should come and change things in the designer, because it is visual, it's much easier. You don't have to write code, and you won't have to make mistakes. In a few cases, you will have to change or add components using code, but in the programs we're gonna build, we won't need such a thing. Okay. Now, the question is, well, we know this. Sorry. The question is, well, now we have seen this one. Okay. Let's have a look at another one here, which is program C#. Okay, we have covered these files. We have the program.C#. Now, what's happening here? Well, this is your main program. Your program always starts from main. Okay, so you can see here static void main. Okay, and here you are calling again, Visual Studio wrote this code for you. So you have application enable visual style, and then set compatible text rendering default, etc., etc. And then you have a method called run, and there is an object of form1. So what does all this mean? Well, form1 is the class we have been talking about for a while now, right? And we saw the files, the form1 designer C# and form.C#, right? And it is a class. So here you are creating, or the computer is going to create an object that represent the window. Okay, and then uh, the run method is being invoked, and that object is being passed here. So the application will be running your window, okay, or the main thread of your application will be handling this window, okay, and the execution will transfer into here. Okay, now I'm just explaining this without much detail in order for you to understand what these files mean. Now, do you need to change the program.C#? No, usually don't need to change that. Do you need to change form1.designer.C# from code? Again, you don't have to do that. Okay? All you have to do is go to the designer and double click on the control and write your own code. This is all you have to do. Okay, now enough of this talk. Let us try to do a very simple application. So I'm gonna forget about this one. I'll go to file, go to new project, and this is gonna be Windows Forms application, and I'm gonna say okay. I'm gonna say no, I don't want to save anything. Good. So we have this form, and now I'm gonna say I'm gonna change the title of this form. In order to change the title of the form, there's a property called text. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna double click this one. I'm gonna say testing and hit enter. Now I change the property testing for this form, and I'm gonna run the code. Okay, and I can see testing. So far so good. Now I'm gonna double click, sorry, for that I'll put a button. I'll put the button on the form, and I'm gonna change its value to press me. So I will come here and press me. Okay, so the button's asking you to press it. So if you double click on the button, the designer will create a method for you. Okay, The name usually is as follows. It is called button 1. This part represents the name of the control, and the other one is the event that caused this method to be called. So this means when you look at this, you know that this code will be executed when button 1 is getting clicked. Okay, so what do you want to do? What do you want to do here? Well, I could do one of there are a number of things I could do, but the simplest so far we saw that we can change the property of text, right? And since we can do this in the designer, it means there is some code that could do that as well. So I'm gonna change it. So I'm gonna say button 1 dot text. As you can see, there is a text property. Okay, and now I can access it from code. Okay, thank you, and you put a semicolon to end the statement. Okay, so now let's run the code, and there you go, and you can see okay, thank you. It is very simple, right? Okay, now let us go here, and I'm gonna click on the form. Okay, and I will go to the properties, and I'm gonna click on this events. You see this one? Okay, so when you click on this one, it is gonna display not the properties but the events. In other words, the occasions when the window is gonna ask you to handle some stuff. Okay, some events is happening and you have to do something. So in this case, what I want to do is to, for example, change the color of the window when it is being clicked. Okay, so in this case, let me see, there should be click method. Okay, this is a click method, right? And there's no nothing written here. So well, I'm gonna say form underscore click, for example, and hit enter. Okay, you can see now this one got Visual Studio added this code for me. Okay, and this code is gonna get triggered when I click on the form. So what happens when I click on it? I'm gonna say this dot back color. If you remember, we changed the back color property, so it means there's a property here. Okay, equals the type of this one is color, right? So equals color dot, let's say dark green. Okay, now let me run this code. I am pressing the button, I click on the form, and the color changes to green. No problem. Okay, well, if I double click on the form itself, I get a similar method, but this time check and have a look here. It is form1 underscore load. Okay, now pay attention here. This method is getting called when the form starts loading. There's a number of there's a sequence of events that happens when the form appears. The first one or one of the early events is the load method. So here I'm gonna add something, okay, which is this dot back color equals color dot light blue. Okay, so when the form loads is gonna be light blue, and when I click on it is gonna go into dark green. So if I run the code here, You can see now this is light blue. I click on it, it's green. But if I look at it at the design time here, this is the design time, there's no light blue. Okay, so you can see how we are linking our code with the events. Okay, so again, okay, and I press this one, no problem. Okay, so this was kind of an introduction tutorial to make you understand what is happening in the IDE, what is happening with the files, and what do we mean by event, what do we mean by properties. Okay, oh, by the way, let's go back here. If you want to see the properties again, you just come here and click the properties. If you want to see the events, you come here and click events. Okay, it is as simple as that. Okay, so I'm gonna click here just to go back to properties. I think I will stop here, and in the next tutorial we will start investigating some of the available controls and try to uh, make use of them. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye bye.